Hey everybody! So a while back, TJ and I put together a drummer's toolkit video detailing some of the small items that can be a lifesaver for a live performance. We got a lot of feedback from you guys, and the one overwhelming request was, do one for guitar players. You asked for it, you got it. Here we go. Okay, before we jump into it here, I just want to mention that the show is sponsored by GraphicStock.com. GraphicStock has over 300,000 plus graphics, photos, vectors, and images for you to use in your projects. Most websites charge per image/graphic for you to be able to use their images in a commercial project, and it can cost as much as $30 per image. These costs add up quickly when you're designing a website, running a blog or YouTube channel, or making DIY or art projects you might want to sell. With GraphicStock, you get unlimited downloads for one flat annual fee, and all memberships come with a 100% royalty-free agreement. All right. So here we go with the Guitar Player's Toolkit. The aim here was to put together something that's not too expensive and the parts are easily accessible. Most of the things here you can find either at your local music shop or hardware store. If you know a guitar player and want to get him a cool gift, watch this. All right, so let's get into it here. First things first, I went and got myself a toolbox for about 20 bucks. I was looking at a tackle box, but I realized, it makes a lot of sense for a drummer to have a tackle box because there's a lot of little fiddly bits and whatnot. The guitar player actually has different needs and space requirements. You don't need a lot of little slots for small things, actually. You need a little more room, so a toolbox makes a bit more sense. But for the small stuff, yeah, we've got a couple basic things here. First and foremost, the headphone jack, because you're going to need this sooner or later. The trick is don't lend it out because you won't get it back. Second thing, without saying, 9-volt battery. That makes perfect sense to have one of these handy because you just never know when you're going to need one. And drummers are going to love me for this, but keeping a drum key on hand can be a good idea as well, just in case your drummer happens to forget his or some situation arises. Having one of these on hand, better safe than sorry. Yes, I understand this is for drummers, but as a guitar player, you should be trying to make an effort to be at least a little bit responsible. Next up, very important to have one of these on hand is a Snark Super Tight Tuner. Not only are they cheap, they're fantastic at keeping your guitars in tune. Somebody brought one into the studio not too long ago, and these are great. They clip on everywhere. Just make sure if you lend it out, make sure you get it back because they do have a tendency to grow feet and walk away. Next up, a set of 4 AA batteries. Again, you just never know when you're going to need to power something that you might not have planned for. And having a spare set of batteries on hand can go a long way into saving a bad situation. Okay, opening up. Let's see what we got here. Got a few goodies here. All right, first and foremost, Ultrafire Flashlight. These things are bright, they're focusable, they're great, and crawling around on stage, you are going to need one of these to patch something in at one point or another. I understand everybody's got flashlights on their cell phones these days, but these are brighter and have bigger coverage, and they're a little harder to lose. They're available for like 10 to 20 bucks on eBay. This is the AA version, I believe. Most of these have like their own special batteries and whatnot, but here's one. Oh, this takes 3 AAAs. So there you go. And I'm still on my original set of batteries for this thing. So, and I got this in the spring. So definitely recommend getting one of these. And yeah, you can drop it and it's not going to break. Next up, box cutter. You can get these at a dollar store. Always good to have on hand. You never know when you're going to need to cut something. Needlenose pliers. If you're playing guitar, you need a set of these sooner or later. You just don't know. Always have these on hand. String winder and cutter. Are these things ever great? This will wind strings for guitars, basses, you name it, but the added bonus is the string snipper in this end. These things are so useful. Always have this on hand. Never leave home without this. Tube super glue, again, because you don't know when your bass player is going to break something you own and not be able to replace it. Automotive Paint. Now this was a neat trick one of the viewers gave us. This is really cool, actually, is if you've got a lot of cables and whatnot, you can just use this to mark off. If you're playing gigs with other bands, you don't want your cables to grow legs. Just mark off a little blue dot here. and let that dry. And you're all set. And that way you've got an identifying mark. You know it's yours, and that's why you keep this on hand as well. So that way, if you see somebody walking off with one of your cables, you've got a very clear identifying mark that's indisputable. And automotive paint is very difficult to take off. Somebody suggested nail polish as well, that works. But I like the automotive paint because it's just so simple, so easy to work with. Set of Allen keys. Oh, yes. If you don't have these, go get these, especially if you're playing a Floyd Rose guitar. Oh, yes, get one of these, without a doubt. Pen, because you never know when you're going to need one, and you always need one, and nobody ever seems to have one. And Sharpie for marking down who knows what, set lists or whatnot. Granted, if you're gigging, you should be having your set list printed well ahead of the gig. Now, here's a little tip somebody on the channel gave me as well, is if you lend out a Sharpie, hand it out like this, but hang onto the cap. Why? Because they're going to be compelled to give it back, because nobody wants to hang on to a Sharpie without a lead. Neat trick. Hang on to that. A little multi-tool slash pocket knife. This will come in handy. It's got a little screwdriver, knife, bottle opener, corkscrew. Yeah, like any of you guys are classy enough to drink wine, but little Phillips head screwdriver. Yeah, this will do the trick in a pinch. Solder, yes, always carry your solder. The soldering irons below, we'll show that in a few minutes. And of course, your guitar player, hang on to a few extra guitar picks, because you never know when you're going to need one if your main ones go missing. Okay, in the bottom here, we're really coming prepared now. Yes, this was mentioned before. Your own personal stick of deodorant, because you never know when you're going to need it, and it's always better to have some with you than to not, especially if you're planning on meeting people after the show. It's a good idea, so keep that there. Precision screwdrivers. Oh, these are great. These are cheap. You get these for $5-10 or less. These are great for working on your guitar, pulling the back off, or you need to do a little bit of quick maintenance on a guitar or whatever. Have these will save your life. Contact cleaner, again, this is a total lifesaver here. Don't leave home without it. I got turned on to Keg Deoxit from Dave Thomas, actually, over at AEA Audio. He turned me on to this stuff years ago, and I bought this can in like $19.99. It's still half full. You just need a tiny little squirt to, if you've got a dirty pot or a bad connection or something like that, or even a stuck lock, this will lube up the lock really well. But this is great for fixing all kinds of little electronic nasties. So definitely grab yourself a can of this. Moving on. Soldering iron. Yes, if you play guitar, having a soldering iron on hand is an extremely good idea. Again, don't leave home without it. You can see mine's extremely well used. But soldering iron, precision screwdrivers, in case you get a cable break or something goes wrong with the electronics on the inside of your guitar, you are able to fix it in the field without any problems. Absolute must-have on the road. Next up, spare IEC power cable. Because you just never know when somebody's going to forget one, and this can make the difference between your gig happening and not happening. Spare power supply for your pedals. Again, just a good idea to have one on hand. You can lend this out, just make sure you get it back. Spare speaker cable. Once again, be prepared. Always have one of these on hand, because you just don't know. I like my spare cables, as you can see. This one is a spare Midi cable. And once again, you just don't know when you're going to need it, whether your keyboard player is going to need it, or you're going to need to run an effects unit or something like that, or another Midi cable dies, or some dummy breaks the jack on your Midi cable, like I might have done at the Rev booth at NAMM last year. Sorry about that, guys. Just a spare patch cable for pedals and whatnot. Again, always a good idea to have on hand. Spare guitar cable. If your guitar cable breaks and you don't have time to fix it in the field, it's always good to have a second one on hand. I love the George L stuff. Very clean signal path, and the jacks are just absolutely amazing. I've never had a problem with this at all, and yeah, just wonderful sounding cable. Duct tape, of course, this can fix too many things. Mythbusters, built airplane wings and boats out of this stuff. I mean, like, yeah, this will get you out of a tight spot. Spare guitar strings, this kind of needs no explanation, just you should always have a spare set with you for obvious reasons. But why am I carrying spare bass strings? Isn't that the bass player's responsibility? Yes, it is. And guess what? Chances are he probably won't have a spare set. So if he pops a string, you guys might be out of luck. Of course, it's the bass player's responsibility to carry extra bass strings, but it's always a good idea to have things on hand because I'd rather have a show than be right. Playing gigs with the tube amp, spare power tubes, you know, just again, a good idea. You never know when your tubes are going to melt down on you and whatnot. If you got a spare set, you can be back up and running in minutes. One more thing, spare direct box. I've got a couple of these. This is the Radial J48. This is pretty awesome. You know, just in case you're playing a gig and you want to get some guitar tracks and you want to reamp later. Don't always count on the venue to have a decent direct box, much less a quality one like this. So yeah, keep one handy because you never know when you can use one of these at a gig. And last but not least, a spare $20 taped up underneath your toolbox because you just don't know when you're going to need that. Whether the bass player wastes all the band's money, you run out of gas, whatnot, you've got an emergency $20 there. Just don't tell anybody because you don't want that to grow feet and walk away. This was suggested by one of the viewers and I thought that was a fantastic idea. So there you go, a little bit of tape. I've got clear tape here for demonstration purposes, but I'd say use some duct tape or some packing tape, something so nobody can tell there's actually a 20 under there. They're just going to wonder, why has he got some tape on the bottom? Who knows? But a spare 20 will save your ass at one point or another. So you can get most of the basics here for under $100. Obviously, things like DI boxes are going to cost a bit more, but you should be able to put together quite the extensive toolkit for not too much money. If you've got a guitar player in your life, this would make an amazing gift. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out graphicstock.com/holidays or click the link in the description below to get $50 off 1 year of Graphic Stock. I'm out of here.